was just so tone deaf, but it's kind of what we expect. I mean, I called it, not to be crass, but nobody wants to hear from the murderer at the funeral.
Ann Killion is a columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle, and I feel like I have to start at a little bit of a lower tone here because it did have super sad emotional vibes yesterday. Oakland getting its last Major League Baseball game with the A's. And thank you so much for joining us and all the great coverage that you've done out there. We have been all over this story from the jump as soon as our show started to be able to bring this more coverage, since some places won't. And I know you did a great job documenting this. So first off, thank you for joining us. And how was the experience yesterday? How was it yesterday?
It was a mixture of heartbreaking and heartwarming. It was super emotional. I think people felt, all the feels. They were sad. They were happy to be there. They were sentimental. They were angry. But it was, it was just a very emotional day. I mean, longtime employees were bursting into tears. Mark Kotze was crying. It was just you couldn't go anywhere without seeing people weeping and hugging, and very much felt like being at a funeral.
Let me ask you this. Sorry, Todd.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. And I watched it and I was sad. And I wasn't the most beloved player in the history of the Bay Area, but it was still sad for me because I had a lot of memories there. No, but I had a lot of memories in Oakland. And played a lot of, there's a lot of memories from my career where I look back and say, man, Oakland was great. Good and bad. Listen, I won games there, I lost games there, and just had a really awesome time every time I went there. Now, facilities weren't the best, obviously. But, gosh, to see the way that place went out yesterday, the only thing I can say is as good as the Bay Area, NBC Bay Area tried to do it, I thought there should have been more fans. I thought there should have been more discussions. And I know they're paid by the team, but man, I just wanted more fan reaction, more fan interaction, I guess, than what we got, because it was, yes, I know there was a game to cover, but man, it would have been nice to just almost have like a split screen with the game and a fan camera just to show all the people going around.
That's a great idea. You should have been the producer. I think that the broadcasters are in a very tricky position. I think many of the employees are in a tricky position. I think that, some of the best quotes I got yesterday came out of the Rangers locker room, because obviously Mark Semien played there. He's an East Bay product. He grew up going to that ballpark. And he didn't have to worry about making his owner mad for the way he felt. So, a lot of the people there, obviously not the fans, but the broadcast crew and the employees, they're still kind of walking a little bit of a tightrope there, because there are a lot of people to blame in this scenario, but the guy who owns the team and signs their paychecks is by far and away the number one villain in this whole scenario.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, Scott's been a big advocate about this whole thing about, about Fisher. It just has been terrible, if you want the truth, about what's been going on. When you're at that ballpark yesterday, you're looking up in the crowd, like, we talked about memories. We talked about, fan reactions. What are you going to take away from that stadium, from the last time you looked at it? What are like the biggest parts of you that you're going to remember? It's like, man, I'll never forget this.
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, and the first team that I fell in love with, my dad was a Giants fan, but I fell in love with those mustachioed, white-shoed World Series teams from the 70s that were just, they changed baseball in so many ways. And then the first time I ever went to I didn't go to any of those World Series games. The first time I ever went to a World Series was an A's World Series, because, the Giants didn't get to a lot of World Series. I have memories of going there with my kids, as a kid, as a teenager. It was a place that has touched virtually everyone in the Bay Area if you've been here for more than 5 seconds. And I think, and this is one of the things I wrote about, is, it was a very democratic ballpark. It was very accessible to fans. You could go, you could take BART, you could park in the parking lot and have your own tailgate without having to go to a fancy club. You could bring in your own food. You could sit in the bleachers and have a hot dog. And that experience, baseball spends a lot of time wondering what they're doing that's wrong. Why aren't they reaching people? I think part of it is that experience is starting to disappear. And the Oakland Coliseum was it was a dump, but it was accessible. And it was one of the few places you could still go. You could take a family of 4. You could take grandma and grandpa. Grandma and grandpa could take the grandkids. I mean, it was affordable. It was accessible. And I feel like that is kind of disappearing from baseball, unfortunately.
Sticking with Fisher, what did you think about the letter the other day he wrote? Should he have just went away quietly, or was it just something that kind of
It
just
was
hit you right here a little bit with a knife? You know what I mean?
exactly a giant thing of salt pouring into the wound. It was just so tone deaf, but it's kind of what we expect. I mean, I called it, not to be crass, but nobody wants to hear from the murderer at the funeral. I mean, it just was a tone deaf, one more insult. He's treated the fans so poorly. It was full of lies, half truths. He said he tried so hard to get a ballpark in Oakland. Well, as soon as he bought the team, he started trying to move the team out of Oakland, to San Jose, to Fremont, to things that were never viable. And then most of his sites that he set on in Oakland for a ballpark weren't viable. I mean, he pursued things that weren't even possible, and then, tried to point the finger at other places. And he never pursued the most logical site, which is the site that the Coliseum sits on. It's 120 acres of Bay Area real estate, with BART and freeway access. And you'd have to be very uncreative to not be able to figure out something fantastic you could build there.
Okay. Did you see the post game last night? Did you see the post game after the game when Bip and
my post was writing on my computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you had to work. I get it. But what's
Brody
the guy?
Brazil?
Yes,
is the host who was on his last show.
Because he's been let go.
Yeah.
Did you see his idea where he said the A's sold these tickets? They should have given them away for free instead as a thank you, but instead they sold and they jacked up the prices. Not only did they sell them, they jacked up the prices. Is this just another instance of Fisher saying, I want every last dollar that I can get out of these Oakland fans?
You know what they did? They replaced the bases every inning, and they sold them. They were selling them. They gave a set, I believe, to Kotze. They gave a set to Claywood, the groundskeeper. But then they were auctioning or selling them off. One of my colleagues wrote about a guy paying $1,000. I mean, come on. Like, you couldn't donate to charity. It was funny, though, when the gates were open, I'm pretty sure all the longtime employees were just letting people come in and not charging them to park, which might have been one of their last, flip of the bird to John Fisher. But no, I mean, that's, when as soon as he started talking about Las Vegas, he jacked up season tickets and then blamed the fans for not showing up. I mean, in some cases, people had their season tickets quadrupled. And that was when he, had gotten rid of all the players. I mean, he's just been trying to squeeze. I mean, the revenue sharing that he's been getting, when did Oakland become a small market? Only when he bought it. He's just tried to get everything he can, and he's a billionaire, and he's not willing to put his own neck on the line.
Well, then my last thing is, how avoidable was this? Why? I don't understand. Even my wife, she watches baseball, but she's not that. But she did watch the end of the game yesterday because she has a lot of good memories, bad memories in Oakland also, in the Bay Area.
Listen, everybody, we got a major problem here. Half of our viewers are not subscribed. Let's go. All you got to do is click a button. Check it out. Hit that button. The problem will be gone. Let's go.
I love a great deal, but I'm not going to run sprints in the outfield just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops. No BS. With Mint Mobile, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan. Purchase and activation is super easy too.
To get started, go to mintmobile.com/territory. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
How avoidable is this? Why aren't they staying in Oakland for the next 2 to 3 years until they hopefully get this miraculous stadium in Vegas? Why do they have to go to Sacramento? This place is still a viable option. It's probably a better option than Sacramento. So why? I still have not had any, other than just being greedy and wanting to get out. You mean to tell me that two people couldn't have sat down? There couldn't have been somebody from the outside, the mayor's office, and said, I'm going to be the savior. I know John Fisher wants every dollar, but how can there not have been one person to save this?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense what their plan is to go to a minor league ballpark where it's, 110 degrees. They're going to have to put in artificial turf because it's the Giants AAA affiliate will still be there. The MLB Players Association is, I don't think, very thrilled with the idea. It's just, it's ridiculous. It'll skew all the numbers. What is Aaron Judge going to do in that ballpark? It's kind of crazy. I just think the relationship became so toxic. There don't seem to be any adults in the room. And yes, the city of Oakland is at fault in all of this, but to go to Sacramento to not really, the plan for Las Vegas is far from set. We're supposed to hear more about it by the end of the year. It's just, they're leaving Oakland and going on a journey to nobody's really sure where. It's just that they're leaving Oakland, and John Fisher wanted it that way. And, let's not get slack on the rest of major league owners. They approved this, and I don't know if they really knew all the details or knew what they were getting in, but they rubber stamped it. The one thing it's good for the Giants, who now have this massive territory, very wealthy territory all to themselves.
Let me ask you this. I know you've talked to a bunch of fans too as well. Like, what's next for them? Do they stick with the squad? Are they Giants fans? Do they walk away from baseball? Have you gotten any answers or what people have been saying?
I can't imagine many people will make the drive to Sacramento. That's the sense I get. I think they don't want to support John Fisher. They don't want to, they'll always bleed green and gold in some way, but they're going to hope that someone comes in and buys the team. They're going to hold on to their memories. And there's a lot of anger at the Giants. So the fact that the Giants think they might just swallow up all these fans, I don't know. That could, because everyone who knows the A's scenario knows that, the Giants are thrilled that the A's are leaving, and they didn't, want to make a deal for the San Jose territorial rights. So, maybe their kids will become Giants fans, but I don't know that people who are now identify as A's fans are going to just flip the switch. It takes a generation. Usually we found that, with Raider fans whose kids eventually became 49er fans after they left. But, and I think a lot of people are just kind of fed up with baseball, which is, I don't know. It's not great for a whole market of people to be fed up, and it's just not great for baseball to lose this market. You guys think about not just the swinging A's of the 70s, but then after that came Billy Ball, then the Bash Brothers, and then Moneyball. It's like this place has launched so many cool movements in baseball, so much innovation, and changed the game in so many ways, and it's like baseball just turned its back on all of that history.
Yeah, it's gross. It's 57 years of a strong brand built up here, and they're just deciding to shoot it. That's why, in my mind, John Fisher writes that letter and at the end says, and make sure you follow us, right? We're going to keep the name. Yeah. So stupid. And also, even for that, right? Like, we know, I've spoken to plenty of people in Vegas, like they want nothing to do with this man and the brand that he has built and put his stamp on, right? And so they're even, bringing the name over the whole deal. Best thing they could have done is try and fool people into thinking this was something else, and they're not doing that either. So dude's a crook. That continues. So my question for you is, what negativity was there at the ballpark because the broadcast wasn't allowed to cover it, right? So they did a nice job in some ways of being sentimental. It was a tough watch for me because I couldn't see the entire experience there. You're not going to see a bad sign. Even, I'm sure there were sell chants and F. John Fisher chants and all of that, but I couldn't absorb any of that besides what people were capturing on their phones. So what was going on there in terms of the anger?
There was a low level anger, and it kind of seemed to ramp up. There was definitely sell the team chants and some expletives hurled toward John Fisher, who I'm quite sure was not in the building. There were the usual banners, about Fisher and sell the team and Doris, come get your boy. Doris is his mother's name. We had a couple people run on the field and a couple of smoke bombs, the kind you see at soccer games, in the outfield. But, at the end of the game, people stood. I mean, I would say it was probably still full half an hour after the game, and probably an hour after the game, there were still a few hundred people in the stands that just didn't want to leave. But, I didn't see any kind of real anger. There were some people said that it was hard to buy alcohol inside. And now this is another thing he's done, is notoriously have low staffing. Concessions aren't well stocked. They close too early, but it might've been deliberate to try and kind of, keep a lid on some of that, the drunken anger. But, there's definitely anger. But that's been expressed, and I think so well, the fan protests last year and the boycotts and the moment of silence. I think it's been expressed, and I think a lot of people went, while they're still angry, they just really wanted yesterday to be their own personal moments.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for covering it and for, enlightening our fan base. And, we've been looking forward to talking to you and obviously continuing the conversation here of what's gone on. And it's such a baseball problem.
It
That's
just
what
feels
I always
so bad
say.
for the employees, man.
It's
The
terrible.
employees. The employees, fans.
The grounds crew guy, you
That's what
see
I'm
him
talking about.
crying.
The grounds crew guy that had his dog there every day that sat on the lawnmower. Like, that was cool when you went to Oak. It was such a different, Todd, you played out there. It was such a different vibe when you, other than any other park in baseball. Every other park in baseball, a lot of them were similar.
Yes.
You went to Oakland, it was a completely different animal, what you were dealing with.
Fans too. It wasn't cookie cutter fans.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm talking about. It was just, everything was different. You're in Oakland, you're like, I know I'm in Oakland.
Yep.
And it was awesome.
Yeah. A lot of character to our sport. So, and the only thing we can do is hope that this crook eventually sells, and also that we get an expansion team there somehow. We need fresh blood in terms of ownership to continue to flow into our game. I think that's the only way to start to fix the problems that have been caused by monsters who were, born on third base and think they hit a triple.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more with you.
Thank you so much, Ann. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.